we never can't not do nothing, and today I'll make a review, sort of a review or presentation of this bicycle lock. I'm not sure how to pronounce it in English properly. I'll write it down. Abus Bordo 6500 model, and the locking mechanism is branded as X-Plus, Granit X-Plus. And now I'll show it, move the camera so that you can see the lock. You don't have to be looking at me for this presentation, and I'll show how it works and say a few things about it, and then I'll talk a bit about bicycle security and locks in general, and post links to my articles that deal with that topic. So let's get on with it. Okay, here is the lock. This is the model 6500 Granit X-Plus, the locking mechanism, and it's a folding lock, so it looks like this, and it has a convenient way to carry it on a bicycle, which is a very good feature. And this is how it can be. This is how much it can hold. It's quite handy. Unlike U-locks, this one allows for tying around even a not very thin post. You cannot use it to tie your bicycle around the tree or something, but it's a bit more versatile than a U-lock, and I would say, at least for me, a lot more handy. It's probably the most handy bicycle lock to carry. I'll show how it's carried and the holder that it comes with. So I like this lock for that reason, for convenience, and it still allows a reasonable amount of security. The locking mechanism is very good. I will show you the key now. This is the key for this lock, and you can see that it is quite long before the locking mechanism starts. So it has some weather protection as well as lock picking protection built in it. The locking mechanism is buried deeper in the middle. So this is how you open it. These connections are made quite sturdy, and they are not very easy to break. This is the tool of choice for most bicycle thieves, at least in my city and in my country, and these locks are quite resistant to being cut with these kinds of tools, even if a thief tries to break these connections, which is the weakest link of these locks, because this locking mechanism is quite good, and not many thieves can lock pick this, and it's made to be quite well protected from brute force attacks, even drilling, because it has some anti-drill plates inside. So I think it's overall a reasonably built bicycle lock. And now to say something about the alternatives and some more thoughts about bicycle locks, but first we will show the mechanism, how it can be carried easily and conveniently on a bicycle. Alright, this is my road bike, and I will now put the lock on my bicycle. That's it. Let's see a close-up. Here it is, and you can easily take it out, and this is how it gets locked. So when you put your lock in, just press, and it's securely attached. So this is the presentation, and now I'll talk a bit about overall bicycle security and locks and other alternatives. After this presentation, this is perhaps a bit boring part for some people, but I think that some of you might find it interesting. At least the topic is interesting to me. So when I talk about bicycle locks and bicycle security in general, often, almost always, especially in the last few years, people would send me a link or mention videos made by on a YouTube channel called the LockPicking Lawyer. I hope I've pronounced it properly. I'll put a link to that channel, and I really enjoy watching that channel. I found it when people have recommended it and showed it to me, and it's very good. And for those who are not familiar with it, I suggest to use the link given in the description of this video and to visit the channel and see what it's about. And for briefly, the channel is made by someone who, at least based on my knowledge and experience, for how much I can tell, is an expert on, or a very passionate hobbyist about on bicycle locks, and not just bicycle locks, on any locks and lock picking and security in terms of locks, basically. Yeah. So, and his video presentations are very educational, and he shows the ways to open various types of locks, including many high quality bicycle locks made by Kryptonite and Abus as well. And he does it very well, and he finds and tests the weak spots of locks. What do I mean by weak spots or the weakest links? Every security system has some sort of a weakness, because a completely secure system is useless by definition. And for that, I like to use an example for say you want to keep something stored securely in a vault, and you can just build a concrete room, put whatever you wish to secure inside, and then close it all up with concrete. If you do that, that system will have no weak links. You would have to use brute force and a lot of it and make a lot of noise to break the preferably reinforced concrete and then get inside. So it's perfectly secure. It has no weak links, but it is also perfectly useless if you need to get something out and use it occasionally, at least occasionally. And as soon as you put any kind of door to make it convenient to use, in order to make it convenient to use, you must have some sort of a authentication system that can only allow authorized people or persons to use it or enter it or open it. But that is inherently the weak link. So any kind of lock, any kind of guards, whatever, there are ways to get around it, sometimes requiring more skill, knowledge and time and effort put into it, sometimes less, but there always is a weak link. So there is no perfectly secure bicycle lock. And I will show now something. Here, this is relatively cheap. You can get this for like $10 and get a good metal saw for about $10 or even a lot less. And using this, I can hack through any kind of lock or any kind of steel, even if it is 12 millimeters thick, like those big motorcycle chains, in about half an hour tops. So the simplest, cheapest way is to do this. I can also use a battery powered angle grinder and cut within minutes. Of course, when using angle grinders, you make a lot of noise and a lot of sparks go flying out. So it's not something that I would enjoy doing without wearing any sort of protective gear. And if I were to steal a bicycle, I would be looking for something that is easier to steal, so that I don't have to put myself at risk either from being caught by making a lot of noise and to get injured or something. So that's what security boils down to. If you make your bicycle better secured and more difficult to steal compared to other bicycles, and especially if it is cheaper or looking less attractive to thieves, then your bicycle will be relatively safe. But of course there is no guarantee, if a person who is very determined and averagely of average intelligence, they might find a way. If they really want to steal your bike, they will find a way to steal it, of course, but it generally boils down to making it more difficult than the other bicycles. That's the best you can do, and I think that is, at least in my experience, because there are a lot of bicycle thefts in my city, it is reasonably safe. Whichever bicycle gets stolen, at least based on the information I could get from the local police force, mostly bicycles get stolen using something like this, usually by people who are desperate for making some quick money and easy money, and if this cannot cut it relatively easily, they look for simpler options. So any lock that can prevent this sort of attack with cheap bolt cutters that are not even made to cut steel, I think, to cut steel wires and stuff like that. These are made to cut steel bolts. So if you have a thin chain or a poor quality cable lock, this will cut it, but other things are a lot more difficult to be cut using this. So that at least is my opinion. Now to see about this lock, people who wish to save some money, they know that Abus is a good brand and they just think, okay, I'll buy an Abus lock and that's good. Well, it's not. Why? Because Abus is a known brand and it makes no reason to make your brand be well renowned if you don't want to use it to make more money. So lower end Abus locks are more expensive and not any better than cheaper alternatives. That again, this is based on my knowledge, my experience, and the information that I could get. So take it for what it is, nothing more, nothing less than that. So people buy Abus model 6000, which does not have a locking mechanism that is this good as I've shown it, and the lock is not as well made. And the connecting pins on that model are a lot easier to break and destroy, even using a tool like this one. However, this lock is more or less safe from these kinds of attacks. So it's a lot better quality. It costs about double the price, at least here in Serbia, compared to the model 6000, but it is the lowest amount of protection that I would consider reasonably safe for a bicycle. And its upside is a lot of convenience. If you want to have more security, there are Abus Granit X-Plus U-locks that cost here around 100 euros, and the U-lock is a better solution in terms of security, but the problem that I face and see with it is that it doesn't offer as much versatility. You cannot lock it with the U-lock around a pole that is not very thin, relatively thin, and this one can just tightly around the frame and around the post make it. So for places where I can lock my bicycle, this works a lot better. And an alternative that offers a lot more options when choosing where to lock is a chain, but chain has one problem. The thinnest chain that offers any sort of reasonable protection from attacks with these tools need to be with links that are 10 millimeter thick, hardened steel of hexagonal profile, so that when you use a cutter like this, it does not get into a small amount of material, but because of the hexagonal profile, it gets around the whole flat area that is wider, so the force gets distributed over a wider area and it's a lot harder to cut it. And to be really secure, compared to the security of a good quality U-lock, the chain needs to be 12 millimeters thick, and those are usually marketed and sold as motorcycle security chains. And that's really because good quality steel is heavy, so good quality lock needs to be heavy. People often complain when I recommend the lock, oh, it's too heavy. They still haven't invented a very light material that is difficult to cut. As far as I know, steel is still hardened steel, the best you can get, and it is as heavy as it is, so there's no way going around it. If a lock is light, it's not very secure, again, in my opinion. So those 12 millimeter thick motorcycle chains are like several kilograms heavy, like twice as heavy as this one, if you want any sort of reasonable length so that you can use it to lock around a tree or some other thicker object, or to lock both a wheel and the frame around the post that is not very thin, and so on. I also, a brief digression, I will put links to my website articles that discuss bicycle locks and how to lock a bicycle securely. But I won't get into it right now because I don't want to make video too long. To get back on this, I want to talk a bit about the LockPickingLawyer, because again, this is my opinion. He does not mention one thing that I think sometimes he does. Sometimes he would say like, this is reasonably secure to keep your whatever you wish to save, but he does not really stress the amount of expertise that he has and the good quality tools that he uses, both for picking locks like these and for cutting, because people who do have the knowledge to pick a lock like this, at least in my city, have their own shops and they do that for money, and it makes no sense for them to be stealing bicycles. I don't know of any kleptomaniacs who do it just for fun, but it pays a lot better to do it as a job and it's legal, so you don't have to worry about getting arrested or beaten up by the owner. And average bicycle thief does not have that kind of knowledge and skill. Maybe there are some, but it's far from usual. Really, it would be really exceptional. So that is the sort of, not a complaint, but a thing that I think should be noted, because when people wish to buy a good quality bicycle lock, I'm not selling bicycle locks, so this is not sort of an advertising. And when people wish to buy a good bicycle lock, they see they see a video how it is opened quickly and easily, yes, by an expert, and then they say, okay, so all the locks are easily opened, then I will get a cheap one and be done with it. But the problem is that you are a lot more likely to get your bicycle stolen if you use a poor quality lock. The price does not matter, but usually the good quality ones cost a lot, unfortunately. But they get a lock that gets cut with a tool like this in 1 second, or even a tool like this can cut through some really thin chains, or I would not recommend using it because it's a good quality tool that would be damaged, but it can cut through very thin chains and through wire locks, the cable locks that are not of very good quality. So, and people get amazed. As far as my knowledge and experience goes, I think it's important to note, I do from time to time open locks when people lose a key or have a mechanism stuck, when it's, to me at least, clear enough that they haven't stolen it, a bicycle, but they really have a problem, or when they have a problem to enter their home or leave their home because their lock got stuck. I'm far from an expert, but unfortunately, because good experts, at least in my country, are very difficult to find and they are very busy, so even regardless of the price, sometimes it's not possible. So most of my friends and acquaintances usually call me when they have some problems like that, in addition to bicycle mechanical problems and computer problems and website problems. So here, living in Serbia, you have to know a lot of things to just get by, and so I'm far from an expert, but I think that I do have some basic knowledge, and I do think, if I do say so myself, that it is a bit above the average. Average is not very high, but above the average, and I would have a lot of problems trying to open a lock like this with very little time and very little noise. So that is the bottom line, and that's all I have to say about this for now. Thank you for watching. I hope this was, at least to some people, interesting and educational. And do get yourself a good quality bicycle lock. Even if you have a cheap bicycle, you don't want to be buying another cheap bicycle every month. Get a good quality lock. It can be more expensive than a bicycle, and that's okay, because they cost what they cost. But you buy it once and it lasts for years, and it will keep your bike so that when you come back from whatever you did, you can use your bicycle, don't have to walk on foot and be sad and shocked about your bicycle stolen. So that's it. Cheers.